going to call on another champion of YOU, Megan Gleed, to come up and introduce some of our speakers today. She's always a great supporter with YOU and continues to do some great work. So please give her a hand, Megan.
Our second speaker this morning is a gifted poet who credits YOU with helping her find her poetic voice. When you hear her speak today, you will see why she is gaining a national reputation as a spoken word poet. Please join me in welcoming our final speaker this morning, Ms. Jayme Archibald.
Good morning. Today I am going to talk to you about myself, my experiences with YOU, and my track to recovery. I'd like to do this the best way I know how, and that's through poetry. I believe that it is through my experiences with YOU that I have been able to embrace poetry, and through poetry that I have been able to grasp recovery. However, I think there's a little more to my track to recovery. I think there are several tracks, more songs that make up the playlist of getting better. Track 1, breathe. Take a deep breath and listen to your body. Get in tune with the tune of your heart, strumming its strings with fingers that shake and nails bitten into inexistence. Find the beat of your bagpipe breath as it expands and deflates with perseverance. Put the strength of percussion in your lips so they can drum out the words that resound in the chests of those surrounding you. Let the boombox in your brain guide the way in harmonies made up of amino acids and melodies of muscle and bone. The simplest step you can take is to breathe. It is small, but it is mighty. As with every subconscious or conscious decision to breathe, we choose to live. So in this moment, let's breathe and choose again to live. It is important to know that there have also been times when I chose not to live. At 17, I believed I had no future. All I had known at that point had been a struggle. I lived in a single-parent home where, despite my mother's best efforts, we were usually scraping to get by. This, and a family history of mental health issues, always weighed heavily on me. At the time, I honestly thought that killing myself would make things better for everyone involved in my life, aiding our family's financial problems and stopping them from having to worry about me. I had attempted before, but it wasn't until I was 17 that I was actually hospitalized for trying to take my life. From there, I was diagnosed with PTSD, depression, and anorexia, and spent the next year in and out of hospital and treatment centers. That was over 3 years ago, but I still find myself choosing to live daily. And so the smallest but most important choice I ever made was to keep breathing, even when I didn't want to. Those tiny choices have led to where I am today. From becoming a part of the YOU program to becoming a cat mom and a vegan, it all started with a single breath. Track 2, accept. I take the broken keys and valves as my own. The off notes I strike now and then are a part of the unique song that I am. Mistakes fuel progression, even though sometimes it feels like mistakes only fuel depression. Like my chest runs on the fumes of anxiety, working the clockwork beneath my sternum. The world through the lens of my mental health is made up of ups and downs, ricocheting through my daily life like a slingshot fired down a thin hallway. I am constantly bouncing off the walls of my own skin. I can't rely on what I'm feeling. So I rely instead on accepting that all of this must be progression, that from every low and every high, I will once again find stability, which is never easy. Probably the most difficult thing I have ever done is accept that I am not okay and that I need help. The second most difficult thing is finding people who are willing to stay. As my mental health progressed in every direction, I have not always been a pleasant person. I've left a pretty sizable path of lost friends and significant others over the years. However, there's not much I can do but to keep accepting, to keep moving, and to keep going forward with the people who have stayed, like my family, the poetry community, and the people at YOU. Despite how I've struggled these past few years, YOU has always been there to help. My housing and support workers there have always gone above and beyond, from walking me through making safety plans, encouraging me to join a running group this past summer, and just being there for me when I needed someone. Surrounded by these people, I have to keep believing that sometime I will pick myself up, and I will stay up. Track 3, Rebuild. I mix a symphony of my own being, 1 teaspoon of the music I heard on my first date, a pinch of the tears I lost to my childhood dog, half a dose of the chicken dance at my aunt's wedding, 1 cup of cracking knuckles, 2 shakes of laughter, and 3 whole echoes of my name and the voices of others. Bake until golden, shining with a light long forgotten. 2 years ago, in February of 2014, I first came to live in the Cornerstone. That month, I also worked up the courage to attend and perform at the London Poetry Slam for the very first time. I didn't know it yet, but I had just pasted the initial strip to my papier-mâché heart. I believe strongly that art has the ability to heal us. And through YOU's help, I have been able to embrace that. Starting with attending poetry slams monthly and improving my writing, I was soon invited to speak at 2 of the YOU dinner parties, the Child Reach AGM, and a gathering for World Homeless Day. In the last year, I was also sponsored by the Slam to go to Vancouver for the 2015 Canadian Individual Poetry Slam and the 2015 Canadian Festival of Spoken Word in Saskatoon. I also hosted a weekly creative writing workshop for the youth at the Cornerstone this past summer. So all with the help of YOU and poetry, I've traveled across Canada and spread art onto others. So I think my little heart has grown at least 3 sizes these past few years, which helps a lot with track 4, love. We often learn to hate ourselves before we learn to love ourselves, especially when it comes to our bodies. I know now that 11-year-olds should never find orchestras bent over a toilet seat, but my first love was a smooth porcelain beauty. She could take away all my problems with a voice of flush and opportunities, a chorus that layered happiness and beauty, all at the bottom of an empty stomach. But an empty stomach doesn't carry the same acoustics as someone full of life. It carries pain and cramping and 10 years of self-hatred. When I was 11, purging didn't seem eating disordered. It was a fun game to play with friends, to eat everything we could and then get rid of it all. I never for a second thought that it was something I would carry with me for years down the road. I didn't even know what bulimia or anorexia was, much less that they were labels I would live with from then on. My second love was the shade my skin took when his hands pulled away. It was the way yellows and greens sometimes faded into blues and blacks or the other way around. My second love always told me he loved me, both in suicide threats and love letters, because abuse doesn't necessarily come in the shapes of fists. And when it does, sometimes I am thankful for the simplicity. Throughout my teens, I was in a physically, emotionally, and sexually abusive relationship. But it being my first and longest relationship, I didn't know to expect anything else. I don't think I was in love as much as I was trapped. I've since struggled a lot with identity, having spent most of my life in my developmental years as an extension of someone else. But luckily, one-sided love is temporary. In the same way that stomach cramps and bruises heal with time, I am slowly learning to let go of old loves that never helped me become my own person. I am slowly learning to give my love to the one someone who can always give it back, myself. I know that sometimes it is difficult for an organization to find a happy medium between providing the bare minimum and doing everything for a client. But I think YOU has found that medium. While providing the necessary supports I need, I am also given space to learn my own lessons. I think that is the magic of being given a home before anything else. Knowing that I will always have a safe place to stay and call my own, I am able to take some risks in other areas of my life as I focus on my career, my education, or my personal life. It's all a lot easier without worrying about where I'll be sleeping. That's how YOU has always given me room to grow. Because I am a crescendo. Right now, I may be silence, but with the simplest of hums, I will grow. I will grow and grow and grow so that even when I fall quiet, the only way left to go is to grow again, starting silent, then reverberating off the love I pour over myself and those around me. Track 5, replay. I understand that recovery may not always be easy. I understand that recovery may not come in perfect order. But if I start to skip, if I miss a beat, if I lose the rhythm, forget my words, I remember that I can start over any time, because this is the playlist, the soundtrack, the songs of my recovery. And it's time to give them another listen.